Hello, everybody. In a region where every move reshapes the balance of power, few voices matter as much as his. Mike Pompeo, former US Secretary of State, strategist, and sharp observer of global shifts. Today we'll talk about the East Mediterranean, security, and what lies ahead for Cyprus and, of course, the region. This is Uncensored. I'm Christian Tsouroulis. It's a great honor, Mr. Secretary, that you're here.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
So let me start with this. You were the US Secretary of State who lifted the decade-long arms embargo on Cyprus. 5 years later, how do you assess the evolution between Cyprus and US?
Yes, well, there was a change, right? There was a change in leadership. President Biden and his team, I think, paid less attention to this. I don't think the policy shifted all that much. But now with President Trump back in office and Secretary Rubio now running the State Department, I'm confident that those policies, a recognition of the importance of Cyprus, an recognition of the importance of the Eastern Mediterranean as a security matter, as a economic matter, energy, all of those things I think now are back at the forefront of the way the United States thinks about this region and the larger region, not just the Eastern Med, but all around it. I think that's a good thing for the folks that live here, and I know it's a good thing for the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. What was that thing that changed the situation about the arms?
It seemed to me it was just an unjust policy, right? It was unfair. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for Cyprus. It didn't make sense for the United States. It didn't make sense for our friends and allies in the region as well, right? I mean, this is a complicated piece of real estate and an important geographic area for commercial transit, for the complex security issues to the east and to the north and to the south, for that matter, in Africa. All of these things matter an awful lot to the United States, and to lift that arms embargo made sense for us because you were willing participants. This is something you had been seeking for an awfully long time, and you were a great friend and partner. I don't know why previous administrations had not done it. It made complete sense for ours to do so.
So it was about time, you see.
Yeah, it was about time. I do think too the world has changed dramatically in the 10 or 15 years leading up to my time as Secretary of State. You all had matured in significant, important ways. Your willingness to step up and provide security for yourselves and for others in the region had moved forward. It made good sense. So the time was right, and I think you all were ready and very much deserving of that.
So Cyprus has become a reliable partner for the US and also for NATO, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean. Do you believe that Washington should invest more in this partnership?
You know, it's always the case that you'd like to invest more. I don't know precisely.
Politically, militarily?
Yeah, politically for sure. Militarily, I think, is an interesting question. You all are great partners. Many operations we were conducting, we couldn't have done without your support. Some of them I can talk about, some of them I can't. But you all were fantastic partners. It's a small place, right? But we all can just stare at a map and recognize its geographic importance. It sits at this very strategic place. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to see not only the United States, but NATO invest more in this region, in the Eastern Mediterranean. I think the leadership in NATO can see that. And I think that the leadership in the Department of Defense in the United States can see that too.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, Turkey remains a NATO member, but allow me to say, not always an ally in practice. So can Washington still trust Ankara, given its ties with Moscow or with Tehran?
Yeah. So we confronted this challenge as well during my time in office. You'll remember the fights over the Russian air defense system, the S-400, yes, where we made very clear that was not acceptable. We denied the Turkish government the ability to manufacture the Joint Strike Fighter at the time, which they had already begun, because they were buying Russian weapon systems. Turkey does present a complicated problem set. It's doing what it thinks is right for itself, but that is not always consistent with NATO's objectives. And so, you ask if it's a reliable partner. I think every nation does what is necessary for itself, but there is an expectation. There's an expectation that they will behave to their fellow NATO partners appropriately, and then as participants in the NATO enterprise. Turkey's done that some too. There were places that Turkey was very helpful as part of our NATO exercise. Since I left office, right, Turkey permitted 2 more nations to join NATO without vetoing it, which is something they had threatened. I think that's all to the good. They should be credited for that. But Turkey needs to recognize that they are a deep and fundamental part of NATO, and they need to consistently behave in a way that reflects that. And interfering in politics here in Cyprus in a way that's adversarial and not consistent with a partnership in a security apparatus like NATO is not consistent with that.
Yes, I would like to stay a bit about the relation with Tehran, because, I mean, what's happening in the neighborhood and all the organizations, Hezbollah, Hamas. So how do you comment this relation between Turkey?
Between Turkey and Hamas? Well, look, the Turks have been great security partners on some files. There have been other places where they have supported people that didn't make any sense for the United States of America. I think Turkey needs to demonstrate it is full-throated in support of the 2 fundamental ideas when it comes to combating terrorism. One is it's unacceptable, and second, educating, training the next generation in extremist violence is completely outside the bounds. And so not just Turkey, but every nation that's in the region needs to make clear Hezbollah is unacceptable. They're a terror organization. Hamas is unacceptable. They're a terror organization. The Shia militias that operate inside of Iraq today don't get talked about very much. They still are very powerful, very capable, and impacting Iraqi politics, both in the south in Baghdad and in the north in Erbil and Kurdistan. The Turks need to recognize that those nations have sovereign rights, and we need to counter terrorism every place. And Turkey needs to be a central part of that. They have one of the largest militaries in all of NATO. They have tremendous capabilities. They cannot be seen as having played too close or too cleverly with terrorist organizations.
Yes, but you often describe Turkey's foreign policy, if I'm correct, as neo-Ottoman and expansionist in the past. Do you still see President Erdogan's agenda that way today?
Yeah, you see it. You see it in many ways, right? You see it in Syria. You'll recall that Turkey put pressure on the United States forces to move out of northern Syria in 2000. I'll have the timing in 2019, if I remember correctly. We did that at his request. President Trump said, nope, we're going to allow that. He was moving down into Syria, a very unstable place. Today you see that with Turkish efforts to be part of the peacekeeping force in Gaza, which I'm fine with. Are you serious about peacekeeping? Are you truly a neutral? Are you going to support the objectives that are there, that is countering terrorism, denying extremism, building out a politically independent Gaza? So much so good, but you can't have it both ways. You can't underwrite and create risk of terror while you're claiming to be a counterterrorism operation. And so, yes, I think Erdogan has big visions. I hope he has big visions for Turkey and the Turkish economy. That'd be a great thing for NATO and for this region and for Europe. Sometimes they behave in ways that are confounding and very troubling for other NATO members and the United States. Mm-hmm.
You once promoted the East Med Alliance of Greece, Cyprus, Israel, and the United States. Do you still see it as a sustainable framework for regional security? And maybe we could create another path to go to India, today?
So you can see this, and as I'm ever hopeful that the Abraham Accords will continue to expand, right? Creating a corridor there.
Yeah.
Look, there's an opportunity in Syria as well now that didn't exist during my time, right? So that corridor from the east. And yes, you could absolutely expand this to India. But those 3 nations are geographically co-located, control waterways, travel, and huge energy stockpiles where there's enormous economic opportunity. And so the reason that we were leaning into this so hard is we believe that this economic backbone of those 3 nations could deliver really good outcomes for themselves and for our interests, the American interests that are in the region as well. I see that framework as still being very vital, very important, and hope that the Trump administration will continue to expand on it.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that there is still a realistic path towards resolving the Cyprus issue, given the current regional climate and status?
You know, these things are always hard. And so I'm often asked to predict, and I try to avoid that.
But we're expecting when the United States are going to turn the eyes among the Cyprus problem.
It's in the same way that we did in the first Trump administration, I think pretty clearly. I hope so. Look, they've been very busy. We have a major conflict that goes on in Ukraine, right? The fight in Gaza has been ongoing since the second Trump administration began. And so it doesn't surprise me that there's been less attention focused on this. But if you ask me where Secretary Rubio and President Trump are likely to land, it will be very similar to where we landed. I watched the elections here just a bit ago now. I saw that a new leader has emerged. I hope that he's prepared to make the negotiated resolution something that will work for everyone and begin to move away from allowing outsiders to interfere in these political things that are duly the right for the people of Cyprus to deal with, to address. If we can head down that, if collectively those outside forces will step away and allow the negotiations to continue, I hope that there's a resolution. With these things, you can never see it coming. These resolutions often happen in surprising ways, and I hope we get a great surprise for the people of Cyprus.
We keep repeating that the key holder is Turkey, so somebody has to talk to Turkey or to put Turkey on the table in order to.
Yeah, I think that's right. And they have to be incentivized. I'll use the proper diplomatic term. They need to be made clear that it is unacceptable to continue their behavior, to take an internationally recognized nation and try to undermine it through subterfuge or worse, through overt actions. By the way, it's not. I always, when I would talk to my Turkish counterparts, I'd always say it's not in their best interest. The best interest is a free, successful, sovereign Cyprus. That's a great thing for the entire region. They don't quite see it that way. I hope that they'll come to do so.
Yes. Now, to the biggest picture, do you foresee a new security architecture emerging in Eastern Mediterranean in the coming decade? I mean, with all this that it's happening in the neighborhood?
It's interesting to watch when people talk about Europe and Europe stepping up and spending more money on its own defense. They seldom talk about this region. They often talk about France and Germany, the two biggest economies by far, or they talk about Eastern Europe, Poland, the Baltics, the places where there's risk from Vladimir Putin that is very real. But we know the Russians are active here as well, right? They're active in just about every part of Europe and the Eastern Mediterranean. And so I do hope that this renewed interest in Europe spending its own resources and doing the necessary to secure itself will create an opportunity for it to become an even bigger part of the NATO security architecture. And I think it's entirely possible that will happen.
Yes, and looking ahead, what role should the U.S. Play in balancing energy, security, and diplomacy in the region?
Oh goodness, I don't know how to answer that. American leadership matters in the region. I heard it all the time from my counterparts here in Cyprus. I heard it from my counterparts in Israel. I heard it from counterparts in North Africa, and Greece, Turkey. The United States leadership in the region matters an awful lot. It is an economic opportunity, a true juggernaut. We see what Greece has done at its energy ports. The capacity for real wealth creation for the people of Cyprus matters. The United States can lead in that. And then as a security matter, we know the security and military operations that take place in the Eastern Med, right? We can all see it. The United States needs to continue to be a part of that. We can't withdraw. We have to be a part of it. It's in our best interest. America first is President Trump's tagline. He's right about that. And America first definitely means continued U.S. involvement here in the Eastern Mediterranean as a security matter as well. From that flows the diplomacy. From that flows trying to sort out the challenges that are between Greece and Turkey, between Cyprus and Greek and Turkish neighbors. Our diplomatic hand can play a real role in that. And we ought to do it.
So a last personal remark. From your experience, expect the unexpected from President Trump here in the neighborhood?
I don't know in the neighborhood. With President Trump, it is always the case that there are unexpected things, mostly good, but often things that cause people to have to behave in ways that they don't want to. When President Trump thinks it's in America's interest. But with respect to this region, he came to understand it pretty well over the course of his first 4 years. I have no reason to believe he doesn't still understand it, and that he doesn't still deeply believe that it is really important that the policies of Trump's first administration continue here in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Thank you.